show is brought to you by Health Plans, your Medicare plans, insurance solutions, and resource agency. We have a variety of plans and products that fit your needs, benefit requirements, and budget, with many low or no-cost premium plans, zero co-pays, and much more. Our licensed benefits advisor's priority is your health and well-being. Call us today and book your no-obligation consultation. 1-929-367-5269.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. Today, new day, new show, new topic, new guest all the way from the land down under. And our guest is going to really change a lot of the stuff that you do. And specifically, ladies out there, we're going to talk about some specific things. My guest today, Sheryl Carroll, Your Tiny Voice, that's her company. And there was a spin to that. So we're going to talk about that. Sheryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Oh, listen, it's a pleasure and honor. And I know we're going to deliver some great stuff to our audiences today. But first things first, as always, Sheryl, tell us a little bit about your background, because you have an interesting background. You didn't start in this realm of wellness and awareness and all the stuff. You started in the financial space. So let's talk about that, or banking, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a chartered accountant by trade. So that's where I went, after school and university. And then my first job was in banking overseas. So I'm actually from South Africa. So from South Africa, moved to London, worked in a big international financial institution, and I've always been in internal audit. So it's always been about root cause, understanding why things go wrong, but in a banking land. And then, although it was an amazing experience and I learned a lot and I climbed the corporate ladder, I never had that real fire in my belly around banking, auditing. Some people laugh and say, well, who would have fire in their belly about auditing? But I do think some people do, which is awesome for them. But that wasn't me. And anyway, to cut a long story short, I moved to Australia to be with my husband and went back into banking. And then when I fell pregnant with my first child, I committed that whilst I was on maternity leave, I would retrain as a personal trainer, because I was really into fitness and loved it. So I did that whilst I was on maternity leave, but then realized that that wasn't really what I wanted to do from a career perspective. And something else had happened whilst I was pregnant with my daughter. And so it was a friend that I'd been with since my time as a chartered accountant. She was diagnosed with bowel cancer at the age of 35 and passed away 3 months later when my daughter was 6 weeks old. And, we'd always been interested in health and well-being together. And I just did not understand why this seemingly healthy person had ended up in the situation that she'd been in. And you can imagine, I just had a new baby. I'd going through all of these emotions, and then just this real fear of, wow, something like this can happen to somebody who's healthy. Like, it just didn't make sense in my mind. So I just wanted to learn more and wanted to validate my own understanding of health. And to me, it was more than just fitness. So, I continued and kind of grappled with this whole thing that had happened, and really got into listening to things about holistic health. And fast forward to falling pregnant with my son, I said to my husband, I think it was 2 days after he was born, I'm like, I need to do some extra studying. I really want to, I felt something, a call to the nutrition space. And I said, I just really want to do something, educate myself to validate that the decisions I'm making for my family from a nutrition standpoint are actually good for us. You only know what you know. So I then started doing some research into various nutrition courses, and I landed on the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. which is, holistic health coaching. And I started doing that, and I was like, wow, like my whole world was opened around all of these different nuances of, ways of being and what the meaning of health is. And through that studying, I started following a doctor who's based in the US called Dr. Stephen Cabral. And his approach is really all about root cause analysis. So, if a symptom shows up for somebody, it's your body's way of saying that something is out of balance. And that really resonated with me. And he actually created a certification. So I signed up for that certification as well. So I did those 2 certifications whilst I was on maternity leave with my son, and then started health coaching part-time when I was in banking, until I got to a point where I was like, I'm done with this banking thing. I know what my calling is, and I can see a path to making it work for me and my family. And so December 2020, height of the pandemic, I pulled the plug, left banking, and haven't looked back.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And there's a lot of stuff I just want to kind of point out a little bit. So the first things first, we'll have to say a greeting to Africa, because, South Africa, I'm from North Africa. So,
exactly.
We actually have the 2 extremes. I'm the Northwest, you're the lowest point, and I'm the toughest point there, whatever. And so that's funny, but that's just how the world is. And then you're in Australia, I'm in the States, so that's amazing how that works.
We're meeting in the future.
I know, and we meet in the future. That's funny. And for audiences, we are actually literally on what is today, Thursday, and you're on Friday. So yes, that's how it is. You're in the past with me, and I'm in the future with you. And also you mentioned something about the banking. I mean, it's a cool world, and obviously it's needed. There's financials there, but you're right. In auditing, is a space where you're not well liked in general. People don't like auditors in terms, but companies do, because you work with them, you make sure things happen. So it all depends the angle. But what I love about your story is that you want, first of all, you want fitness. That's the other thing that I actually am very, very well adapted to, because I've been in martial arts all my life. We also have a fitness, brand, my wife and I, and so we have a fitness channel included. So this show will air in that channel as well. And it's amazing. You're in the fitness, you always are aware. You're always looking at health and wellness and better being. And then you mentioned something about losing someone at an early age, and that's a big it's almost like a wake up sometimes call for all of us when that happens, and you'd be like, wow. This is not for somebody that is typically sick or old. I mean, it can happen to anyone, any given moment. You're right. That is a difficult. And, I admire the idea that you actually took the time while you were actually doing, throughout your maternity. And, like, okay, this is the time that I'm going to take, this whole thing. And you did it on a part-time basis. And it was your passion. Now you developed your passion. And, there's nothing more beautiful than when you work with something that you love. And you and I, we talked earlier about, this whole media thing. And this is where, my mind is, going forward. I hope one day that this is going to be like, blooming to a point where it's really, this is where we can send resources and help people, educate them and give them the access to stuff that they may not otherwise have access to. So I love that part about the story. But just to talk about your, well, first of all, you said December 28th of COVID. And that, it's funny because a lot of people have made that drastic move during that time. I think that whole lockdown gave people the time to really find themselves.
Absolutely.
And the lockdown gave a lot of people these certifications, opportunities that they could not do otherwise, because you're like really just hustling and doing, and you have no time. And that gave some momentum to a lot of people to build a whole new path, a new career, a new passion, whatever they want to. A lot of people actually removed themselves from their previous, career paths and started all fresh again. And that's just phenomenal, because I've seen a lot. As much as as worse, as bad as whatever we want to describe the pandemic, there is some stuff that came out of this in a lot of people, and it changed their lives to better. Of course, it's tragic. A lot of people lost their life, and it's that's the sad part about this whole pandemic business. But in the midst of all that chaos, people still prevailed, and a lot of people actually turned their life to a different path and really succeeded. I've come across a lot of people with good businesses that are flourishing now, and good coaching specifically is big. A lot of folks took that as a road, and they're just doing phenomenal, helping a lot of people during this. And it was needed, because after the pandemic, we all need some sort of balance coaching or something. It doesn't matter what, fitness, wellness, mental health, you name it. So that being said, Sheryl, let's talk about your company. So you did this part-time, and then you went full-time, and you just said, okay, this is it, and I can do this. Now your company is Your Tiny Voice. So let's talk about that. I don't know, you want to share that with our audiences? Why?
Yes, absolutely. Because you can never, because when it's only a head, right? You've got no idea what else is going on in the rest of the body. So my nickname here in Australia is Tiny, because I'm short. I'm 5'2", and I'm quite petite in my frame. So somehow just got labeled Tiny, which, I don't mind at all. So, all my friends' kids call me Tiny. Everybody who meets me calls me Tiny. And, when this thing happened to my friend, one of the questions in my mind was her body giving her signs that she was ignoring? Because our body is, we are intuitive beings. And it's just with the noise of life and busyness and toxins and things being out of balance that we can no longer hear what our body is telling us. And we also normalize our own experience. So, conversations I had with her after, the diagnosis, sitting with her in a hospital bed, was that, yes, she had some signs that she probably should not have ignored. So, it was really about my role as a coach is to work with people in a way such that their bodies become move to a state of balance, so that they can listen to their own intuition, their tiny voice, telling them what is right for them, whether it's a business decision or, that gut feel, or whether it's the choice about food or what exercise they should do that day. It's really being tuned in and listening to your tiny voice is, the real outcome I'm working with people on, so that when we step away from our coaching relationship, they've got that. And when they lose that, they know how to get themselves back to that place.
Wow. Well, that is an awesome, actually, I guess, mission that you embarked on. And certainly it took a tragic, and sad event to do this. But you mentioned something that is powerful for people that are listening right now or watching. Your body does communicate, and you stated it. Your friend did state that I had some signs, but I ignored them. Right? I should have listened to my body early on, because that's the thing. We all think, it's nothing. It's just, I don't know, just a little pain, and that thing doesn't go away. It's okay, whatever. And sometimes you just go get some pills and you try to calm down whatever it is, and you don't pursue that intuition or that feeling, the gut feeling that is something is really off. And sometimes you feel something wrong. You just either you act on it or you don't. And sometimes it's too late when you wanted to do something about it, it's over, right? And I love what you did. It's you took yourself to the point where now you want to be helping people find that and tune in, right, to that frequency and understand what it is, so they can actually be independently, able to make this, I guess, awareness within themselves. So now you started that. Now this is a coaching model, right? So basically you help people. Now, how does that work? How does your program work?
So I work with people in various different ways. So I've got group coaching programs for women in perimenopause and menopause, and we work together over 12 weeks. And it's, every week we're checking in, and the pillars, the lifestyle pillars that I work with them on are nutrition, movement, and stress management, as I see those as the key pillars that we need to master in order to optimize our experience as our hormones go on this wild roller coaster ride, and then, finally settle at a lower level in menopause. So that's really about, the group coming together, group accountability, group support, building the sisterhood, which is so important for women in this life phase. It's also important at any phase. It's really that close knit group whereby you can share openly your experiences, your struggles. So it's a really safe space, and I really enjoy, holding those groups. And I also work with people one-on-one. And so for those particular programs, also minimum 3 months. And generally people stay on because there's always improvements that can be made. And, you get to a level and then you can up level and up level. So, it's amazing working with people over longer periods of time as well. And everything there is based on their particular health goals. Like if they've got issues around gut health or detoxification, we can do specific lab testing to get to the bottom of what is going on for them, what level of rebalancing they need. So that really is kind of tailor-made. And for those sessions, we start off weekly just so that we gain some real momentum, because what I find is so often people know what they should be doing, but they don't do it. So it's never really about the nutritional principles or the movement or whatever. I mean, there may be some nuances because for women in perimenopause and menopause, there's a different playing field because of our hormones changing. But there's the behavioral change is the crux of it all. So that's what I really like to work with women on, so that we get that momentum and there's, small, simple changes so that there's a positive feedback loop. We get that going, and then I've got them and they're ready to do some more on their own.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Sheryl. Menopause is a big, I guess, event that happens in life. And it's obviously women have, this particular momentum where it changes, midlife pretty much. And then there's a lot of changes. You mentioned hormonal stuff. Can you just expand a little bit on that, just for our audiences who may not know these differences, and just, the pre, and through the menopause, and then maybe post, and then some of the changes, and then we can break out further.
Awesome. Yeah. So perimenopause is really the stage that happens from about the age of 35 up until the point that a woman no longer has a period for 12 months. So the menopause definition is really time bound. So, if somebody's, hasn't had a period for 12 months, they are then in menopause and they stay in menopause for the rest of their life. Some people refer to that as post-menopause, but it's all the same thing. And so what women often don't realize is it's the time from the age of 35 when our one sex hormone, progesterone, starts to decline, is when we are technically in perimenopause, and we can start to feel symptoms related to these hormonal shifts as early as that. It very much depends on a person's lifestyle, what's been going on for them. A lot of women are actually having children in early perimenopause. So, they're going into perimenopause in a phase of depletion. And, so that can impact how they feel. So really those early stages of perimenopause is just the slow decline of progesterone. And then you get to a point where the ovaries, which are the main producers of estrogen, start to say that they're out. They no longer want to do the job of producing estrogen, but there's this disconnect between the brain and the ovaries. So there's the shouting match that happens. And so sometimes the ovaries shoot out a huge amount of estrogen, and other times there's very little. And it's these like up and down of estrogen that can really make women feel out of control. They can get all of these symptoms that aren't necessarily linked to what their PMS symptoms would be like. It can really impact brain fog. We become more insulin resistant, so we add on a bit of body fat. We start to lose muscle mass. Like all of these things that start to happen when our hormones start to change. And then the final stage of perimenopause is when estrogen starts to flatline. And that's when we're really losing the benefits. Progesterone's flatline, estrogen's flatlined, until we're no longer ovulating anymore and we no longer have a period. And that is menopause. And I think just on that, it's it's really eye-opening to see the full body impact that the hormonal shifts have on women. Our hormones do so much more for us than just allow us to, carry a child. And it's that's why it's so important for women to understand, so that they can start to piece together the puzzle and maybe align some of their symptoms, or maybe just feeling a little bit off with the change in hormones.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot, but I love the way you broke it down. I mean, it's so super clear. I mean, we have the whole stages here and what the impact is, and I love the idea that you break it down, whether it's group and then or individuals, and you kind of work towards these things with awareness, with, I guess, nutrition and also movement. So you combine different things to help mitigate those areas where people may be kind of like off, and it's not because of any, to your point, it's not their doing. It's just the body is all over the place. So the system is in shock.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's, one of the practitioners, I work with an exercise physiologist who specializes in female hormones. And one of her things is that our bodies are not broken. Don't be angry with your body. It's just your physiology is changing. Mm-hmm. And with that, we need to be flexible and flex our lifestyle to best support us as they go through the change.
But the great news is that it doesn't matter. There are ways to kind of prevent some of the extremes stuff through different practices and coaching as you're doing. So can you guide us through like some of the things that you would do to help someone early on with education, awareness, at least to set expectation of what will be coming, and maybe how to maybe diminish the impact of some of those hormonal changes?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the first thing is to encourage women to start to take ownership of their health. So many of the women who come to me aren't tracking their cycle. They don't have a clear idea of their symptoms, what's normal, how often they happen, if it's tied to a point in their cycle. So there's a lack of real understanding of what's going on in their own body. So the starting point is to get them, to educate them on these various phases, and then to get them to start tracking their cycle and their symptoms as it relates to their lifestyle. Because it's with that, you've got a baseline, and they can start to see the things that are serving them or not serving them. And then when I start to work with them on the various lifestyle pillars, we can then start to see what's moving the dial for them in a positive or a negative way. So with the lifestyle pillars that I work on, so from a nutrition standpoint, it's really the fundamentals of nutrition that women really need to master. Because if you think about all of the lifestyle factors, whether it's movement, whether it's nutrition, these are all things that can add extra stress to your body, or it can help your body better manage as being in a state of stress. Because in perimenopause, we become less resilient to stress, because as the ovaries start to decide that they no longer want to do the job of producing the hormones, they are going to be passing on the baton to the adrenal glands. So if the adrenal glands are just now have the job of sex hormones plus these stress hormones, it's just going to be a disaster if it's just everything is stressed. So the nutrition that we eat really needs to support our bodies to function optimally from a gut health perspective, because our microbiome changes as we go through the hormonal shifts. Our liver is obviously responsible for metabolizing all of our hormones. So we need to make sure our liver is functioning optimally. And so diversity of plant food is essential for that. Because I'm not sure about you, but so often we get into this habit of eating like five vegetables. And like that's on our repertoire, and that's what always goes into our cart.
Potatoes, tomatoes, onions, carrots, and zucchini. I don't know.
Totally. Yeah, but
I think
actually,
I got them.
yeah. But actually, our gut bugs love diversity. So it's really focusing on trying to get different types of plant food into your diet that's really going to support you. But it's about applying your mind and thinking outside of the box in terms of the recipes that you try. And, that's a bit of a, and that's what I coach women on. I've got a plant diversity tracker that I share with them, and, different examples of things that they can add in, because the happier our gut, the happier our bodies are in general. And another key nutritional principle is around protein. I often find that women, I know you're nodding your head from the fitness side of things, women don't eat enough protein. So often I'll chat to people and I'll ask them what they're having for breakfast, and they're having one egg and maybe some spinach and tomato. And I'm like, well, one egg is like 6 grams of protein. I'm like, no, that's not enough. We need 30 grams of protein at each meal. And for women in menopause, that can actually go up to 40 grams of protein at each meal. And the reason that's so important is because we lose muscle with the loss of our sex hormones, and our bones weaken. And, that's the link to the exercise, which is, really focus on strength training, because if you want to be functioning as a 95-year-old woman, which, I certainly want to be, strength training is essential to be able to sit down, get up off your chair, throw your grandkids in the air, all of these different things that may be goals for you as you age. So that protein part and tracking that is important, even though it's a bit annoying for some people. And with that, often we need to reduce the amount of carbohydrates. It's like appropriate amounts of carbohydrates, because of our predisposition to insulin resistance as our hormones shift.
Yeah, and I'm just smiling because I was going to ask those same questions that you already answered. Because you mentioned insulin earlier, and you talked about loss of body mass, and you covered the protein part. So I'm laughing about that because you're ahead of me. But I love it because you've covered it all. And one thing that I'm listening to you, and you almost kind of start at 35, and then you mentioned 95, and I want to just pause on that because unfortunately I think people at a younger age, men and female in general, we don't care about the future. We just work the days, and we think we're invincible, and we're not really aware. And I'm not generalizing. I mean, some people are a little bit more into being very freakish about their health and stuff, but a lot of people don't. They just live, they're happy, they enjoy. As long as everything is functioning, we're not worried.
Until they're not. Until they're not. Yeah.
Exactly. And when that happens, like, what the hell just happened, right? And in the case of menopause specifically, it starts fairly early. 35 is an earlier age, right? And if then people are not aware and they've been going through bad habits or whatever, they don't even know that it starts at that age. Because a lot of people think that menopause is like 50. And it's only 50. I'm nowhere there until I get like 45 plus. Maybe then, I'll start feeling some symptoms. But a lot of folks are not aware that this is like early on, and you have different things, hot flashes, to your point, changes in a lot of things, right? And they may not even know, because even if they go to doctors are going to say, well, you're not there. You're too young, for example, right?
Exactly.
So awareness at that age or early on, I think that is important. And I love what we're doing here is that at least we're educating people and sharing that value that, hey, don't think that you have to be a certain age before this happens. Let's be prepared for now. And maybe you can avoid certain problems even in advance. You mentioned something about nutrition, and and we left about the fitness part. I mean, yeah, if you're in fitness, you're aware of your proteins and your food diet and all the stuff that you take in. But you're right. I mean, most of the people, there's so many vegetables out there and so many options out there that you can have that are healthy, but we're not using those daily, and that's one thing. And then, to your point, protein is not really something that people really think. They think maybe protein is chicken, meat, and which is true, but to a degree. But there's more, right? And there's more things. And to your point, 25 grams, 20 grams may not be, and depends on your size, depends on your body, it depends on a lot of stuff, right? There's genetics also involved in here, and so there's all that. And then I love the idea you said you want to live to be, because everybody wants to live as long as they can, right? The problem is, how healthy are you going to live?
Yes.
Because you can live 100 years, but if you've been not healthy for 40 of those, you're
Who
basically
wants that?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's painful, right? I mean, no, we all experience pain in our life from the beginning of our ages. You do experience, you get fever, you get this, you get that. And when you are in pain, no matter how small that pain is, it's very not fun, right? And to your point, if you're not healthy and life becomes difficult, you can't walk, you can't do this, your mental state is not there, everything, it's just really declining, not a good thing. So that's not a good way to live. So you want to live a vitality life, a happy life, an exciting life, an energetic life. You want to have the real, the energy levels got to be there, but you can't have any of that if your system is crashed down on you. It's already too late. So you got to manage the system and help, despite the changes that are like natural changes. There are ways, to your point, and I think I love what you're doing, because you're guiding people to kind of manage those things and tweak and almost like throughout that process. Hopefully, there's no serious, detrimental damage to this process when you age. And again, listen, you're at 45, you're 50, I'm 50. I can tell you one thing. I don't think about, the age. I just think that I still have plenty of time to enjoy, right? And I hope that's the case. And I try to do everything by the book, and I'm just talking about myself right now. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see myself like, in an older age or, or even younger age at that point, and still kind of like not feel comfortable and not be able to do things, because I've seen it. People sometimes are deprived of things because they just can't do them anymore. You can't travel. It's difficult to walk. It's difficult to do certain things that are basic things, right? But if we take the right time to educate ourselves and understand these things, and in the case of women and ladies in general, this is not something that you can avoid. It is happening no matter what. And so it's just, you have to be clear about what can be done before, what can be done during, and how can you be, really just balanced across the years to come, so you can have a healthier life and happier life for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the concepts that I like to work with my clients on, once we maybe gone through a round of coaching, is to get them to start to think about, the last decade that they want to be living in. So, I got this concept from Dr. Peter Attia, and he speaks about backcasting. So, so first of all, decide how long do you want to live for. So do you want to live to the age of, between 90 and 100, or 100 to 110. So when you're clear on that, what do you want to be doing? So get very clear on what that person looks like. What are their hobbies? Are they still going to be traveling? Are they going to be dancing? Are they going to be fishing? Whatever it is, get clear on that, because you actually need to start doing the things to support that person now. Because aging is a slippery slope, because you don't know what's going on inside you. So it's about really embodying that and the practices that you need to be able to support you in achieving that, that outcome.
I love that. I mean, that's awesome, I think, suggestion, and obviously it works. I mean, it is something that's being put to practice, because it's all about setting goals. I mean, we do that in business, right? You set your vision, your goal, and you work towards it, and you do whatever it takes to get there. Well, there's no better goal in life than your health, right? and enjoying it. So I think that's just terrific to even just have that as part of the system and the process, because because we don't think about that, right? We're not looking that far. We just like live, close by. Next day, whatever, I'm still good. I feel good. But again, you don't know how well you're going to feel if you're destroying. I actually have this problem with my kid, my son. I tell him, like, you don't eat anything good. How long do you think your body, I mean, right now you're still young, it's okay. But how long do you think
your body? How old is
he? He's 16, but he doesn't eat. He's got like zero tolerance for vegetables and fruits or anything of nutrition.
So hard.
It is. And I fight with him all the time, I mean, not physically fight, but I fight with him about it.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I'm not going to tell you anymore about it. Do whatever you want. At the end of the day, it's your body, your health. But I can tell you right now, you think you're invincible. Your body is supporting you. But then at the first problem, your body is not going to have all that foundation to support, to fight with you, because you didn't really, it's like a tree. If you don't put the right ingredients and the right soil and the right, food and, to on the soil, whatever that you need to get that boost and the right, fruits, and the watering and when you need it and stuff like that, you're not going to get the right crops. You're not going to get the right fruits, right? Same concept here. Your body needs you, and you feel that. And again, I think for ladies, it's just as equal. If you're not doing a good job, even my daughter, she's 17, same thing. She's picky about food and this. At least she's better. She eats more. She's diversified. She likes them, but they still lack things. Like I can see them. They're not eating all the vegetables. They don't eat. My kids like anti-tomatoes and any of those types of things. And I know tomatoes are supposed to be fruits. Not. I think that's So just to be clear, but the idea is, salads, whatever. They're not into that world. I mean, and the sad part, they're not even taking proteins like chicken, meat, like eggs. Maybe that's it. I mean, you're missing a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of good food out there, and this is not. They'd rather eat, like fast food and things like that from the street. I'm like, that's not good for you. Pizza, hot dogs, that stuff is really all bad. Now you're tasting it, it's all good, but then how long can you sustain with that? Similarly here, I think for our audiences and for women specifically listening, you're in your prime age and you're doing great. That's super, but need to learn how to prevent the future and to your point, plan for that older age. We don't know how long we're going to live, but to your point, but the idea is doesn't hurt to plan. It's like, you never know what the outcome is. I mean, to your point, things can happen any minute, but at the end of the day, just do your best. That's all that matters. But take the necessary steps to be ahead of the game. And this is your best investment, your health, right? Health is wealth. We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Without health, you can't do anything. You can't support your family. You can't work. You cannot do the stuff you love. You cannot enjoy your family, your kids. It's just almost like there's nothing. Millions of dollars cannot bring your health back if you're lost, your health, right? And that's really an important message for people, just to realize that it's important to reach out to people that have the expertise to help you go through this. I think for women specifically, menopause is key. It's happening, and it's just a matter of knowing what to do before and during, and ultimately how to live best. So Sheryl, in that same note, someone registers with you, you go through an assessment, I guess, right? And got us through the process, in terms of how you maneuver the different. I mean, obviously people vary at different ages. That's the other thing. I mean, you have a pretty wide range of people that can actually join your practice. So how do you kind of work them differently?
So whenever anybody comes, it also needs to be a fit, like a fit and, personality fit. I want to make sure that they are committed and ready to do the work, because I'm all in with my clients. So, it's really making sure that are they really ready to do the work with me, because I'm there, cheering them on. Otherwise, it's a waste of everybody's time and money. So that's the starting point. And then, yes, we go through an intake form. I understand, what are they currently eating, how they're exercising, like really the basics. How much water are they drinking? How much alcohol they're drinking, coffee, all of those basic things. What's gone on in their family that we need to be aware of from a, cancer, autoimmune, anything like that. And then I like all of them to have gone to their doctors to go and do like an annual medical. And then I will review their results, because the traditional medicine ranges for these tests are very broad. So something that I see as out of range and not optimal will not be flagged. And often GPs, because they get so little time with their patients, they don't actually go through some of the things that are high and low. They just say that everything's okay. But when actually I've sat back and I've heard all of their symptoms and what's going on for them, I can start to pull the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's my role, really, is to take a step back and look at things holistically to try and understand why something is going on for somebody. And then we can start to address the root causes of it one by one. And so what I'm talking about here is very much my one-on-one programs. I can talk to my group programs shortly. So it may require that I want them to do extra testing. So a really good example for women is thyroid function. So traditional doctors only test generally, thyroid stimulating hormone, which doesn't give us a very good picture of how the thyroid is functioning. And perimenopause is a prime time for the thyroid to start to dysregulate in terms of the function. And that can then play into metabolism issues, low energy, brain fog, resistant weight loss resistance. So, that's always something I like to dig into a bit more. And then, so from there, we'll start to look at what changes need to be made. Like generally we're starting off with the nutrition, just getting them to make some of these simple changes that we've spoken about. So, adding the protein into every meal, swapping out the carbs that they're having, maybe reducing some of the carbs that they're having, and adding in more water. There's so many people who aren't drinking enough water. How can we expect our bodies to function when there's nothing to kind of help the blood move around? So it's really just starting off and stacking these very simple changes one by one, because if we do too much at once, it creates a level of overwhelm. And perhaps somebody's come to me and their nutrition is actually spot on, but where they're struggling is the movement side of things. And, they love those 10-kilometer runs where you're in zone 3 and you're just training in the gray all the time, which adds, for women in perimenopause, that's the worst type of training to do. Like, we really need polarity in our training where we going hard and then recovering enough. That's really been something I've had to work on, because I just love to move, but actually the way I was moving is not supporting my health goals. So, it's really working with them on, okay, let's dial back the running. Let's start on with some resistance training. I always like to get them to work with a personal trainer, although I'm a qualified PT. I like, I haven't been practicing. So I like them to work with a personal trainer to do an analysis of their movement patterns, just to make sure that it's safe for them, and then work with them on optimizing their movement. And often it's also the stress side of things that's important for people to deal with. So physical stress, which is toxins, sleep, some of the big ones, maybe some gastrointestinal issues, which causes stress on the body. And then the whole physical and mental and emotional stress side of things. And that's all the beautiful mindset work that can be incorporated into a day through like flexible daily routines. So that's really what, depending on where the biggest need is for somebody, that's where we'll go, and we'll keep going until they've mastered those habits.
That's pretty thorough. You go through a whole thing, and it's a full analysis, really, and a full concept that you build with them. But so you mentioned a couple of things, resistance training. I know that's typically, it is almost like, perceived as like, I'm not going to go do a lot of weights and stuff like that. How do you deal with that? I mean, that's one question. And then I want to go back to, like, you mentioned something about, genetic stuff, right? Or family, things, issues. But I want to go to some other topic, which I'm not sure what the impact of it in terms of menopause or health in general, which is, let's say, tobacco and alcohol, and that impact. Does that even have an impact, in this particular peri or, during menopause? So I'll pause there with those two types of two levels of questions there.
So the resistance training one is often a sticking point, but if we've done a good job at defining their goals and what they want to achieve, then it's very easy to explain the link between the move from the training in the gray, which is generally where people get stuck because they like the runner's high, the sweat, it's their comfort zone. Linking, okay, continue to do that. And this is what's going to happen to your body. You're going to continue to feel fatigued. Your body's not going to change the way you want it to. But if your goal is this, and you can also show them pictures of people who do resistance training. You don't have to, if you want body transformation changes, resistance training, strength training really needs to feature high up on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So, it all depends on their health goals, and all of them, they want more energy. They want to feel stronger. They want less body fat. So I'm like, okay, if that's your goal, you need to trust me that what you're currently doing is not going to get you there. So that's really how I approach that. And it's also slowly meeting them where they're at. Because what's challenging for somebody who's never done resistance training is obviously, they'll start off with body weight stuff just to make sure that it's, their patterns are right. And then we build up. But for somebody who's been doing it for years, it's coaching them to get onto weights whereby, they're going 3 to 5 reps, which is a big shift for people. So that's kind of on the resistance training side of things, unless you have any other questions on that.
No, just, again, I think oftentimes people think that resistance training is, when you talk weight training, they thinking, I want to go bulky, I want to have to lift a lot and do all the stuff. And I think that's what, kind of deters people to even, get into it. But there's a lot more to this, and you don't have to go really like a bodybuilding style to actually have this. I think that's really the misconception. And so it's just understanding what it means. And again, it's all about education, and people understand what it does to them. And I love what he said about movement. And yeah, you can run. I mean, you work your cardio, that's good, but where's your mass, right? Your muscle is depleting. That's a problem. So that, and to your point you mentioned earlier about insulin, and again, if you are burning too much, there could be also an impact. So it's understanding those things, and that's really what will make a difference for you. And you're doing a terrific job, because you're breaking it down to them, and you show them like what it should look like, and what those. And I also love the concept that you actually refer them to someone that is a personal training to help them and can almost tailor stuff for them. So this way it's customized to their needs. And that's a big
exactly
deal.
And also the other thing when I work with people is that I will never force them to do anything. It's my role to educate them, and it all goes back to the tracking. So, getting them to track how they feel if they're doing 5 days in a row of 10-kilometer runs. Are they more short? Are they lacking energy? Has their body changed at all over the last month because they've continued to run? So, I give them the knowledge and the why behind what I'm guiding them to do, but the choice is always theirs, and, it's what I've seen is that slowly, when people feel ready and then realize that they're not getting the results they want, they feel ready to take that step. And, I'll still be there supporting them. And then we do it, at a pace that's ready for them. That leads me to the alcohol question, which is, alcohol is a neurotoxin. So if your goal is to maintain your smarts, well into your 90s, then alcohol can't play a significant role in your life. And secondly, when it comes to hormones, when we consume alcohol, our bodies obviously recognize the toxin. So when we go to sleep, our body will preferentially metabolize the alcohol over all the hormones. So that includes cortisol, it includes estrogen. So the hormones just recirculate. And that's very often why people wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, because their liver's metabolizing the alcohol, but the cortisol is like shooting around, waking them up. So it really isn't something that can feature in a woman's life if she's wanting to reduce the risks of, the female cancers. There's research that has shown regular alcohol consumption and the links to breast cancer. So, women really need to take it seriously. But it is so our culture in terms of connection, relaxation, and it's a very hard social habit to break. So it's all just about slowly meeting people where they're at, and perhaps it's getting them to cut down from a few drinks every night to, a few on the weekend, and then really just going back to the tracking and getting them to tap into how they feel once they've realized the impact that alcohol has on their sleep, on their moods, on their energy levels. That can so often be the reason why people just end up cutting back. But it is very difficult because of, what it means to people socially. One woman that I was speaking to last week said that it actually makes her feel very scared to entertain the thought of giving up alcohol, because that's how she connects with her husband. So they will sit after work and have a gin and tonic on the balcony, and that's when they relax and they connect. So I understand how frightening it is for some people, because they feel that they may be outcasts, or no longer connecting with people in the same way. So that one is a complex one, but once again, it's slowly. Smoking is just wrong on so many levels. It's just not, it's not helpful for anyone.
Well, thank you. I mean, the reason I'm asking that, because again, and I wanted, and I appreciate the answer, because I think at least for audiences watching, listening, and maybe early on, remember, preventative is always the key, right? The idea is you want to prevent some of the problems. And if you know some, to your point, root causes and things that can really just make it difficult for you, it's time to really plan your life. It's all about lifestyle, right? And shifting and committing to changes that will, again, at the end of the day, again, we talked about it. It's you, right? You want to have that tiny voice telling you, like, that's not, and we know that, right? It's not good, but I still do it. People know what needs to be done. They just don't do it because it's too much work. So I appreciate that. And you're right. I think for our listeners and ladies, as you are, having a great time in those early, 20s, just be mindful that this could have an impact over time. And then when you get to those critical days within that perimenopause stage, that could be a problem. And I think this is a good way to understand that. So at least the information is available and you have the resources, such as, Sheryl, to help you, navigate this and even be ahead of the game with it.
And, just to speak from my own experience, so I do have the odd drink now, but I know that even one drink doesn't work for me and doesn't make me feel good. But once again, I'm South African. It's important from like a connection standpoint. And it's taken a while to get there, where like now I maybe have a drink maybe once a month. And it's taken a while to get there. And I only really noticed the shift from about the age of 41. So what I would say is that there seems to be this real shift in the way our bodies function from about the age of 41, 42, where these symptoms, where the reduction in progesterone really starts to click in, and it impacts sleep. PMS can seem a lot longer. So it can not just 2 days before your period, it can be like a week or 2 weeks, heavier bleeding. So that's really what I've seen. And some of the books that I've read as well, they do highlight that as like a critical kind of point. And to something that you mentioned earlier, I do still think it's hard for people to put themselves in that place if they're not experiencing any of these symptoms yet. I did start to experience some of these symptoms because I was still in banking and doing this work part-time, and young kids, very poor sleep, very stressful job, not supported, and I totally burnt out. And so my level of resilience, because of where I was on my perimenopausal journey, was not there. And that was really my catalyst to totally shift around my lifestyle. I think when I reflect back on that, I hadn't been adjusting my movement enough, my nutrition enough, my stress management enough. And, I was educated. So, I do often think it does come down to a point in time where you're like, hang on, my body's not working the way it used to. what's going on. That is the catalyst for change. I would love it if women started to prep themselves from the age of 35, because the sooner you adjust your lifestyle, the better for you. I think it was Dr. Christiane Northrup in her book, she says women are preparing for menopause their whole life. It's like this final stage where we're going to land. So how we look after ourselves is what is going to help us navigate the whole path, and not be as kind of thrown around through the hormonal shifts.
Thank you, Sheryl. It's amazing as you're talking, and I'm just reflecting, because you're right. I mean, I'm a man, and believe me, even for men, I think there's a time where everything starts going chaotic, and 40 is that mark that's like almost the time where you start changing. It's not the same. You're not the same in a lot of areas, right? And your fitness level is different as much. And again, some of us are more active than others and things like that. But still, there are things like you do know the difference. Your body starts talking to you, right? You have that little feeling, and it's amazing. Like what we're doing right now is almost like we are educating people, because we cannot go back in time and do it for ourselves.
Exactly.
so we're like, hey folks, you're watching and listening, just know that we've been there, and we're just sharing this because before you get to our point here and be like, oh, we heard those guys that talking about it, but it's too late now. Just don't challenge it. Just absorb it, seek help, and just try to make the adjustment. But you mentioned something powerful there. You talked about you working in the banking industry, and it was a rough and very tough environment and very stressful. But a lot of people are living that way. In today's world, everybody's working. It's crazy, it's stressful. Not everybody is really doing their passion, and that's the first. I mean, we can do a whole show about that. People are working because of necessity. They have to make ends meet, and it's tough. But they often in stressful jobs, and it impacts all their stuff, right? And there's their psyche is not working well. That's also another part that can manifest in your body. So it's a lot of that stuff that is in life. If we can just know what they expect, like I hope that what we're doing here is just exposing what the future looks like for many if they do not do the right thing. And by the way, guys, this is with love. I mean, really, this is what we want, is that we want everybody to be healthier. We want everybody to be in their best shape and form, mentally and physically. And if you can avoid any problems, why not? And I don't think anyone, again, will cherish or enjoy pain or problems. So that I just wanted to say that, because when you're talking about it, just like I really relate to it, because I know a lot of the stuff. I'm just sharing it because I've been there, and it's not fun. And I don't want other people to do it. And I wish someone told me like that. And sometimes when people talk to you, like, forget about it. You're just an old person. You lived your life. Let me live mine. Yeah, let me live mine. Listen, enjoy your life. And I get to the point. That's why even with my kids, I get there. I'm like, listen, I'm telling you, it's up to you. Will come to a day and you'll be like, Dad said that. Well, I won't be able to. Maybe I'm not even going to be here. But the point is, it'll be too late. So why? That's a challenging thing. People always want to experience things for themselves. That's great if they're good experiences. But why would you put yourself through to subject yourself to bad things when you already know they're vetted out by many ahead of you? So what's the point? But again,
it's a struggle, and I've had to learn that the hard way, is that you can educate and you can tell people about things that evidence-based, researched, you've learned the experience, but everybody has their own journey. And you can talk to people who are open to listening, but their journey is their journey. And it's about stepping back and not taking it personally if they don't decide to make any changes. That's what I found so hard, because I'm exactly the same as you. I want everybody to thrive, and if I give out, so I'm like, just do this. It's so easy, but it's not easy because they've got their own story that they need to live out.
And by the way, again, that's the bottom line. At the end of the day, people have to make choices. It is a commitment to you, to yourself, to your family, to your health, but it's always going to be up to you. And whatever outcome comes out of what happens later is based on your decisions and your actions. And that happens in everything, for business, in life, in marriage, and in business, in relationship. It doesn't matter. It's always that you get what you put in. And if you plan correctly, you listen, you do stuff, you will get outcome. But again, to your point, some people they just live in the moment and they enjoy what they have and they just don't want to think about the future, which is also, listen, to each his own, as they say, right? But again, we're here to share the resource and that it's available, and there is things that you can do to be better and live longer and happier and better. And that's all there is. So Sheryl, this was really a great show and a great time, and I've learned a lot. Before we wrap up, a couple of things. One is, how can people reach out to you, and are you available? I mean, I'm assuming you can do this worldwide, through I guess virtual meetings. That's one question. Two is, just what would be some of the best advice you can give us, before we close the show today?
So I do work virtually. My whole practice is virtual. So I do have clients all over the world. So love interacting with people from all countries. And so I'm on Instagram at Your Tiny Voice. My website is ytvhealthcoaching.com. And you can email me at Sheryl@ytvhealthcoaching.com, because I do offer free 30-minute discovery sessions for anybody who's just interested to just have a chat about their health goals, just to have some good conversation around, where they could go, like where could they up level in their health. So that is kind of how people can get hold of me. And in terms of kind of final tips, something I would like to just say to your listeners is that don't ever settle when it comes to your health. If you do a bit of a health check, a body scan, like where are you? Like, do you have a foot that is aching? Is your stomach always bloated? Do you consistently get migraines? But you've just started to live with it, and you are just settling for this. Don't settle. There is always a way that you can address what's going on. And if you go to a doctor and you go to a health practitioner, and they don't listen to you and they dismiss you and say that there's nothing further we can do for you, I would like you to challenge that. Because there is always a way that you can support your body to feel better. And, if you've been living with your body for so long and you've lost perspective, find somebody who you trust, and you can say to them, okay, I've done my body scan and this ear always rings and I get sinus infections every month. And, I have 10 bowel movements a day. Is this normal? And then your friend probably doesn't have the same symptoms as you, will say, I don't think that's normal. So it's really just trying to find people that you can openly discuss your health with, so that you're constantly having a check on whether or not what's going on for you is right. And even if you have amazing energy and everything's going well for you, like we were saying earlier, be curious about how much better you can feel. And, it doesn't have to be working with a health coach. There are amazing resources. You've got a whole channel on health. There are always different ways that you can improve things. You may have optimized the nutrition and the movement side of things, but then there's the whole mindset piece that is yours for the taking, where you can really optimize your performance through the right daily practices in your life. So just try things on. Life is long, it's a journey. Just keep being curious around how you can optimize your health.
Sheryl, that was awesome. Thank you so much. That is a great advice, and I do want to wrap it up with it, because there's nothing to add to it. I mean, it's perfect. Thank you so much for being with us and for all the insights that you share with us today, Sheryl.
No, thanks. I've loved our chat.
No problem. Folks, I hope you enjoyed our show today, and there's a lot of valuable stuff. Please do reach out. I will have the link in the description of the show, so please connect with Sheryl and see, there's a consultation that you can have. So if you feel that you need that help, please reach out. There's nothing to lose. So do that. And that being said, American Age, we'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic, new guest. Bye for now.
Bye.